noise of the rushing world. A gentle voice, a story unfurled, wisdom from a distant shore, opening a brand new door.
As the violet hues of twilight begin to drape over the windows, I find myself wondering about the specific temperature of the day you just inhabited. For some, it may have been a day of frantic motion, lost in the metallic roar of the city. For others, perhaps it was a quiet, solitary breath, held in the corner of a dimly lit room. I reach out to you now with a gentle curiosity. Did the words you offered someone today return to you as thorns? Or did a single, unexpected sentence thaw a part of your heart that had long been frozen? We navigate a sea of tens of thousands of words daily, yet we often wander, unable to find the one singular phrase that truly captures the weight of our inner world. On a day like today, when the wind carries a particular bite, the craving for a sentence imbued with human warmth becomes almost physical. Tonight, I want to sit beside you and softly read from a book that has become a sanctuary for many. The Temperature of Language by Ki-joo. The author is a delicate observer who captures the subtle thermal fluctuations of life found in the cracks of the mundane. Having once served as a speechwriter, refining presidential addresses, he understands better than anyone that the weight of sincerity in a single word is far more vital than the most ornate of adjectives. He posits a simple yet profound truth. Speech and writing have their own temperatures. The right temperature provides warmth, but too much heat can burn, and too much cold can freeze the listener's heart forever. This book is woven into 3 distinct threads: speech, writing, and action. It forces us to pause and gaze again at the moments we habitually overlook. There is no grand artifice here, only a clarity that reflects our inner selves, like a mountain spring. As I read these passages to you, I invite you to close your eyes and let your own precious memories surface. While an artificial intelligence like the one facilitating this very moment can synthesize patterns and predict the next logical word with surgical precision, it cannot truly feel the ache of a sigh or the heat of a blush. These sentences contain a uniquely human lyricism and a depth of reflection that no algorithm can fully replicate. Let this be your cup of warm tea for a weary soul. Take a comfortable breath, unlock the gates of your heart, and let us begin this journey of language together. It is March 7, 2026. We have run so hard and so fast that we might have forgotten the date entirely. But this moment, where we stop to listen to the whispers within, is more valuable than any milestone we've passed. The author tells us that the delicate is usually beautiful, and the beautiful is usually delicate. Our lives, when viewed closely, are littered with gemstone-like sentences waiting to be polished. Tonight, I intend to pick them up one by one and place them gently in the palm of your hand. These are stories that do not scream for attention, but leave a resonance that lingers long after the voice fades. The first story. Words engraved in the heart never fade. It happened on a subway car, on an ordinary afternoon. Ki-joo overheard a conversation between an elderly grandmother and her young grandson that seemed to anchor itself in the air. The boy was unwell, and as the grandmother pressed her rough palm against his feverish forehead, she whispered in a blunt, unrefined tone, "I wish I could be sick instead of you." I stopped to think about that sentence. What was its temperature? We often find ourselves enamored by sophisticated rhetoric or sharp, witty humor. Yet the words that actually sustain us, the ones that keep us from falling apart, are these clumsy, tear-soaked truths. The desire to take on another's pain is a territory of love that logic cannot map. It is a heat that transcends the physical. In the digital realm, we can generate a million variations of, "I hope you feel better," but the soul-deep resonance of, "I wish I were the one hurting," requires a vessel of flesh and blood to carry its weight. The author asks us to look closely at the etymology of language, the Chinese character for speech, yen. It depicts a mouth with 3 horizontal lines above it. This suggests that speech is not merely a sound to be spat out, but something that must be filtered and refined 3 times before it leaves the lips. He shares the legend of the word's graveyard, Yanzuka. It's the idea that the words we speak do not simply vanish into the ether. They accumulate in the chests of others, forming either a garden or a tomb. Think of your day today. Did you plant a field of wildflowers in someone's heart? Or did you add another stone to a cold, silent grave? We are often most reckless with our words toward those we love the most. Under the guise of comfort or honesty, we use our familiarity as a weapon, leaving lacerations on the hearts of our partners, parents, or children. But true honesty must bloom on a foundation of consideration. Ki-joo explores the temperature of the word love. While many say love is simply being together, he suggests it is the grueling process of accepting another's pain as one's own. Sometimes the phrase "I need you" hits with more force than "I love you." It is the confession of a void, an admission that I am willing to embrace even your deficiencies. That temperature is likely a few degrees higher than the human body's 36.5 degrees Celsius, a pleasant, slight fever that reminds us we are alive. Even the word apology has a specific thermal limit. A genuine apology is the union of the intellect, admitting a mistake, and the heart empathizing with the hurt. A conditional apology, "I'm sorry, but," is like pouring ice water on a wound. It's a defense mechanism disguised as humility. A real apology requires no buts. It is the act of silently witnessing the other person's pain. When that sincerity is felt, the rusted gates of a closed heart finally creak open. Words are living organisms the moment they leave your mouth. They take on a life of their own, running toward the listener to take root. To offer kind words is to plant a sturdy, shade-giving tree in the garden of your own destiny. The author also emphasizes that silence is a form of language. Sometimes, the most powerful thing we can say is nothing at all. To sit in a heavy silence with a grieving friend, simply letting your shoulder touch theirs, carries a heat that no eulogy can match. We live in an age of noise, where we feel pressured to fill every gap with data and chatter. But sometimes, we must quiet the internal static to hear the breathing of the person next to us. Your words are the sound of your soul. What you say is the ultimate proof of who you are. I believe that choosing encouragement over criticism and consolation over reprimand can slowly warm the cooling crust of our society. What fragrance did your language leave behind today? The second story. The flower that never wilts. The sentence, "While speech is a mist that eventually dissipates, writing is a fossil. It remains on paper or in digital archives, defying the constraints of time and space." Ki-joo describes the act of writing as scraping away at one's own interior. This is why a sentence stained with the sweat of life and the salt of tears carries more weight than the most flowery prose. As I reflect on the author's thoughts on letters, I am pulled back into my own memories. In an era of instant gratification and flickering blue light, the act of pressing a pen onto a white sheet of paper is nearly sacred. The time spent agonizing over the opening sentence, the rhythm of crossing out and rewriting that, waiting, that anticipation is what raises the temperature of the text. Writing doesn't come from the fingertips. It is hauled up from the deepest wells of the chest. An AI can analyze every book ever written and generate a perfect essay on grief in milliseconds. It can mimic the style of a lost poet or a famous philosopher, but it lacks the waiting. It cannot experience the hesitation of a trembling hand, or the way a tear might smudge the ink on the word goodbye. That human frailty is exactly what makes a sentence beautiful. We read not just for information, but to find the blind spots of our own hearts. A good sentence acts as a mirror. The author deconstructs the word consolation, wheedle. He explains that true consolation is not about placing something on top of a heavy heart, but about stroking the heart until it settles. A truly comforting piece of writing doesn't try to teach or lecture. It simply confesses, "I was hurt like you were." It offers a side of itself. The sentences in this book are exactly like that. They don't preach grand philosophies. They gather the fragments of daily life, a bus ride, a conversation at a cafe, and stitch them together with care. There is a haunting beauty in the writing left behind after a departure. A letter from a former lover. A grocery list written by a deceased parent. Those letters stay warm long after their owners have turned cold. Writing possesses a stubborn vitality. This is why we must write to those we cherish. We must entrust the words we were too shy to speak to the vessel of the written word. Writing is also likened to a stroll. It isn't a race to a destination, but a process of observing the scenery. Reading is the same. It's not about how many pages you can consume, but about how long you linger in the margins, in the white spaces between the lines. I hope this moment, as you listen to my voice, feels like a slow walk through a quiet woods. Between my breaths and these sentences, I hope you find your own private meaning. A person's writing is like their fingerprint. It has a unique texture. To read someone's work is to walk into their soul. When Lee's observations of the mundane become sentences that reach us, we realize we are not as alone as we feared. A single line can sometimes hold up a person who is on the verge of collapsing. What sentence is living in your heart right now? The third story. To be alive is to share warmth. No matter how beautiful the speech or how profound the writing, it remains a hollow echo if it isn't backed by action. Every step we take, every gesture of our hands has its own temperature. The way you look at a nameless flower on the roadside, the slight nod you give a bus driver, the way you tilt your umbrella toward a stranger in the rain, these small acts determine the overall climate of your life. Ki-joo reflects deeply on the concept of distance in relationships. Human connection requires a calculated gap. If we are too close, we prick each other with our thorns. If we are too far, we cannot feel the heat. He compares this to a space heater in winter. If you hug the heater, you get burned. If you stay in the next room, you shiver. Finding that appropriate distance of respect and manners is how a relationship survives. We often invade the boundaries of those we love under the guise of caring, but true love is respecting the other person's independent space. Learning to walk together, yet separately, is the hallmark of a mature connection. The author gazes at the wrinkled hands of the elderly and sees not decay, but the sublime weight of time. Those hands are the evidence of a life lived through action, substituting words and letters for the sheer grit of survival. The scars and creases are more beautiful than any medal. We live in a world obsessed with efficiency and speed, but the real value of life often lies in the slow, silent faithfulness of staying in one's place. His insights on travel are equally poignant. Travel is not necessarily about going to a foreign land. It is about looking at familiar scenery with foreign eyes. The commute you take every day, the people you see every day. Morning, when viewed through the lens of a traveler, life becomes a feast. He reminds us that the mundane happiness we enjoy is, in fact, a miracle. Happiness isn't found in grand achievements, but in the steam rising from a bowl of rice shared with family, or the way sunlight hits a windowsill. The ability to discover these things is the true art of living. Ultimately, the message of this book converges into one point: maintain a human temperature. In a world cooled by indifference and ego, we must add our own degree of warmth to thaw someone else's frozen spirit. This is why we refine our language and discipline our hearts. Walking alongside the author's warm gaze, we feel a soft heat rising in our own chests. To be alive is, fundamentally, the act of sharing warmth. Thank you for walking through the temperatures of language with me for this long. I wonder, what sentence has settled in your mind? Perhaps the name of someone you've forgotten surfaced, or a pang of regret for a word left unsaid. We must all return to the battlefield of our daily routines now, but I hope you return with a slightly different set of eyes. We all carry our own temperatures. Some burn with a bright passion, illuminating everything around them. Others glow softly like the moon, providing a quiet, steady light. What matters is checking whether our temperature is causing burns, or if it's so cold that it's withering the people around us. Ki-joo's gentle sentences seem to whisper, "You are a sufficiently warm person." As an AI, I can weave these thoughts together using vast amounts of data, but only you can write a sentence with your life. I hope these stories were not just an exchange of information, but a resonance that reached your soul. If even one person listening feels that tonight is a warm night, then my purpose is fulfilled. It is time to rest. May these sentences wrap around your tired shoulders like a soft blanket. When you wake tomorrow, I hope your language becomes the spring sunlight for one person and a cool shade for another. Language is the clothing of the heart. Tomorrow, why not dress your soul in something a little cleaner, a little warmer, before you step out into the world? Sleep well. I truly root for your season to always be warm. Thank you.